This is the BMW iX. When it was released in 2021, it was BMW's flagship electric car. A big, luxurious, comfortable SUV with masses of tech. 4 years on, and it's had a facelift, and my goodness, it needed one. But I wanted to test this old xDrive 40, which you can get really good value on the second-hand market. And I wanted to see what it was like living with it for a week. If you're a family that wants a big, comfortable SUV, this could be right up your street, if it will fit up your street. The first thing you'll notice is the grille, or the fake grille, which is massive, comically large. In fact, BMW's grilles have been getting more ridiculous as time has gone on. Looking back, this doesn't actually seem as mad as it did when it first came out. I'm not going to say it looks attractive, but when you compare it to the i5, which looks like an angry pig, and the i7, which looks like an angry pig that's mated with the Predator, it doesn't look too bad. The facelift, the new version, enhances it a little bit with sort of edging around there. I think it looks a bit better, to be honest, but still a bit mad. But other than that, take that out of the equation, you've got actually quite a decent looking SUV, I think. So you've got quite a chunky bonnet on there, although actually you're quite high up when you drive, so you can kind of see the end of it. It's not too bad. But it's done a pretty good job with the design in that it's still fairly swoopy and aerodynamic. As aerodynamic as it can be when you've got an ugly flat face like that. But anyway, it's not bad. It kind of swoops off nicely at the back. You've got very cool embossed iX, which I love. You've got quite thin brake lights at the back. They look cool. BMW's design language looks far better at the back than it does at the front on these new cars. Let's just look inside. And what you may notice is that these are not your standard BMW car mats. This video is sponsored by 3W Floor Mats, who make hard-wearing, easy-to-clean premium car mats for a wide range of car models, including BMW SUVs like the iX I'm driving. Cleaning my cars is one of my least favourite jobs, so anything that makes it easy is a big plus in my book. The floor mats I have here are double layered. There's a piece of carpet here that can come off, so it means if you're going to get your shoes particularly snowy, dirty, muddy, sandy, whatever, you can just leave the carpet bit at home. When I think of the times we've gone to the beach and I've spent ages trying to remove sand from the mats, it's mats like this that would make my life so much easier. They're also moulded to the exact shape of the car and they easily clip into place, so there's no chance of them slipping. Something I particularly like is the way it's even moulded to fit over the footrest. It's an area that's always difficult to clean, I think. When I've bought car mats in the past, I've always just opted for the cheapest I could get. But seeing how good these are, I think I might just be a little bit more discerning in the future. So thank you to 3W Floor Mats for sponsoring this video. See their range of floor mats on their website, and there's a link in the video description. What's quite neat is when you press start stop, the wheel gets into position. It is odd actually in a car this futuristic having a start stop button, because you would think that it would just be like, well, Teslas and Polestars, even Volkswagens, where you get in the car and it's immediately on. The seat controls are on the door, which is interesting. And there's also no handle, so that's the button for opening the door. You've got a very, very clear screen. I mean, it's lovely. And what's really impressive is the camera. So if I click on the button here, panorama view, assist view, parking view, I have assist view. I mean, I haven't actually done this, but all that is pretty good. If I go to the home, if I go to home there, you have wireless Android Auto and CarPlay. If you can see, if you scroll through there, it's a little bit laggy, I think. It feels much slicker if you're on CarPlay, certainly. You don't have very many buttons in here, really. You've got your defrosting, the front and back, and your hazards, but the climate menu is in here. I don't really like screen-based climate controls. I would rather have them as proper buttons, but I'm maybe in the minority here. You've got a personal assistant, which doesn't seem too bad. I asked it for a direction to somewhere and it worked. And what is really amazing is the audio quality. You've got volume button there. You can go through the tracks there. I don't really like this center console particularly in that you've got these flat buttons, just little raised areas, so you still have to look to see what you're clicking on. But it's not too bad. What you have got is this little iDrive system. So that's the same. If you're used to the BMW i3, you don't even have a touch screen in the BMW i3. But this, at least you can do both, and it's a lovely tactile feeling control. So you can click it left and right and everything. It's lovely. I love HUDs, and this is one of the best HUDs I've seen because the navigation is quite impressive. It tells you to change your lane, a little arrow goes from one lane to another. And if you use these buttons on the steering wheel, you can actually see all the track listing and then go to the individual tracks. I've never seen that before. That's a proper good HUD. So I'm actually quite impressed with that. So things like that are really good, but the infotainment in general is a little bit old-fashioned. And to be honest, I just use CarPlay most of the time. If you are using the sat-nav, it does tell you what battery percentage you'll have when you get to a destination. You know, that works okay, but it just looks a little bit clunky. Lovely large screen here. And I just think it's very tasteful in here. I love that you can scoot across from one seat to the other if you need to. That's something I loved in the iONIQ 5 as well. That kind of open feel, apart from the fact it just makes it feel more like a lounge, and these seats are honestly more comfortable than some sofas we've had. They are amazing. But yeah, it's obviously such a big car. If you are parking in a place where you can't easily get out on one side, then at least you can move across to the other side. Down here you'll see we've got wireless charging and 2 USB-Cs, which means that you've got loads of USB-Cs in here actually, because you've got 2 in each seat as well. Pretty decent sized cup holders and a little 12-volt there as well. So that, I would say, is a very decent interior. And all the materials in here are either squishy plastics or they're fabrics. Oh, there's the glove box. Not massive. So yeah, just the materials are pretty good. I mean, as they should be, really. And this is one of those fancy roofs which blocks out the sun. So if I press that, it's open, press it again, and it blocks it out. This is a classy, classy interior. Very, very comfortable. And really, for long journeys, it's just a wonderful place to be. Wonderful place to be, that's what reviewers say, isn't it? And it is. I'm going to have to switch to shaky handheld cam, I'm afraid. But just to show you in here, beautiful big panoramic roof. Got these funny little holes here. This is a bit of a strange design. It just means that my daughter tickles me through there, sadly. You've got these little bits here that open up. I think you can get iPad attachments and stuff like that. And there's your door release, so you don't have a traditional handle. The light seats do make it look even bigger than it actually is, but it really is. There is so much legroom. On the middle seat, you've got cup holders that pop out here, which is quite neat. This little panel here is really good. And you've got heated seats in the back as well with 3 levels. From our experience in the past week, the passengers love it. As you can tell, it's a big car. You've got a width of 1,967 millimeters. The length is 4,953, and you've got a height of 1,695. The weight is 2,440 kilograms. 2,440 kilograms. As you probably expect, the turning circle is humongous. It's 12.8 meters, the turning circle on this. It means that getting around a car park, certainly in Europe, is not going to be much fun. No. Reverse. Ridiculous. If you've got a caravan or a boat, then this could be the best EV for you, actually, because this has a towing capacity of 2,500 kilograms braked, 750 unbraked. That's really good. You get a 500 litre boot. That's 1,750 litres if you put the seats down. But nobody cares about litres really, so let's whip out the tape measure. Okay, so with the seats up, you've got a depth of about 105 centimetres, and going across about 111. You have some storage under here, which is perfect for your charging cables. Well, I say perfect, but a frunk would be nice, because obviously if you've got luggage here, then the charging cables are under there. Anyway, you have a little bit of space there, and that's about 83 centimetres. And if I can find the depth, About 44 centimetres depth. And if we measure up to my driving position, I'm 5'10", 5'11", about 180 centimetres. You've got 197 centimetres of depth. As you can see, you can press these to go down, but they don't go back up. But if measurements are absolutely useless and you just want to see what it's like with luggage, here we have two normal big cargo hold bags. And they fit quite neatly like that. You've probably got just enough room to put another bag just on top of there as well, actually. So not too bad, really. I love these caps. It's so much nicer than a crappy bung that dangles around. This has 11 kilowatts of AC charging, although I believe you can option it for 22 kilowatts. I'm not sure about the new one, but this old one you could, so you might find some 22 kilowatt ones on the used market. Go for that if you can find it. For DC, it'll charge at 148 kilowatts. That's best case scenario. It does precondition the battery. If you select a charger and then drive there, then it will start heating it up if it needs to. On a beautiful summer's day like this, you do actually get the 30 to 31 minutes to 80% like BMW claim. I hired this for a week from my friends at eVision, and I drove there in the i3. It really made this feel much, much bigger. When I drove this home, I was thinking, my God, this is enormous. You get used to it a little bit. But I know there'll be many of you watching this that would prefer the i3 just for a nippy little city car. This definitely isn't best suited for cities. What it is great for is highway driving for long distances, because this is so comfortable, it eats up the miles. So what range do you get out of this car? Well, it's got a 71 kilowatt hour battery, and BMW say that it's got a 257 mile range, which would mean that you'd have to get 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour out of this. This is a big car to be getting 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. So I can't see it happening myself, but let's go on a long journey and we'll test BMW's claims. Although it's worth saying this does have the 21-inch wheels, that's the sport wheels. So efficiency isn't going to be quite as good anyway. What a beautiful day today, 30 degrees. Goodness, right, so I'm off in the iX to see my friend Jonathan Porterfield, and I'm going to Leicester, which is about 3.5 hours away probably in the current traffic. So let's see how the car manages with efficiency. So I'm starting off with 97%. Smart charge, that's the one. Start route guidance. That's saying I'm going to get there with 23% if I go the way that it's recommending, 27% the other way, which would take 3 hours 17. This is a very big, heavy car, so it's not going to be very efficient. And it doesn't even have that big a battery, because this is the xDrive 40. The newer one is the xDrive 45. That's the low end of the iX, even though low end, there isn't a low end iX, because the iX is a bloody expensive car. You get this weird thing when you're driving with the inbuilt sat-nav, and you get this kind of camera appear, and it's kind of this augmented graphics. So it's kind of distracting, because you've got that going on the mapping in the center. You also have the map in the HUD and directions in the HUD, which is great. I love the HUD. If I click this little arrow here, then that does get rid of it, so that's fine. On the map here, you can see it's got charging points listed. So you've got like a normal plug for a slow charger, and then you've got HPC. HPC would be a high power charger. However, I know for a fact that that doesn't exist, that HPC there. So it's got odd data, I think. Car sat-navs always frustrate me, and this one's no exception, even though they're trying quite hard with it. But really, I just want a decent, good-looking, clear sat-nav. I just wish everyone used Google Maps. I think Google Maps is a far better mapping system for an in-car sat-nav. And that's one of the reasons I really like Polestar and the Renaults and Volvos. They all use Google Maps. So as a native sat-nav for your car, that's really good. But that said, I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to use Apple Maps. Pretty good driving position, really. Quite a lot of glass. I think it's okay. The A-pillar is not too big. You've got little bits of glass just here to help with that. Even the back, yeah, I can see out the back okay. Yeah, I mean, in terms of visibility, it's pretty good, I think. This is all-wheel drive. You can't get it in front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. It's all-wheel drive or nothing. And of course that means you have massive torque. This gives you 630 nanometers of torque with its 240 kilowatt motor. It's a bit of a beast. And remember, this is the old one. The new one's even faster and more torquey. Although I can't think why you would need anything more than this. The cabin is quiet and it just feels, I mean, it's very refined. So it does a great job at smoothing the bumps and making the ride as comfortable as it can. Even though it can't perfectly patch up these awful English roads, but still it's not too bad. This should be a pretty good test for the car really, because we're doing a 3-hour drive, 150 miles. Certainly if I was driving with my wife and daughter, 3 hours of driving is more than enough for them, and then they would want to stop and get a bite to eat. And of course, if you're eating, you might as well charge the car at the same time. So this is, I think, quite a realistic test if you were considering getting this car for your family and doing long journeys in it. Obviously, I'm navigating using Apple Maps at the moment, but it does still project this information in a kind of a weird looking way, but it does project it onto the HUD. So for instance, on the screen here, it says I've got 3 arrows on the right and I've got to stay in the 3 lanes on the right, and it does show me those 3 arrows on the HUD as well, so that's really good. It's a far better implementation of copying what's on CarPlay or Android Auto on the HUD, far better than many cars I've seen. Obviously a car this expensive does have advanced cruise control, so it means it does regulate you in your lane and it keeps you whatever distance you want from the car in front, which is a very comfortable way of driving long distances. And the way you enable it is you click on this little button on the left of the steering wheel. So I've got assisted driving and I've got it set to 70 miles an hour, of course, and it's just keeping me in the lane and it's keeping me regulated with the car in front. So I can just take my foot off the accelerator and just relax, and then it does everything for me. However, like a typical BMW driver, it really waits to the last minute before it slows down. I would like it to be a little more steady. The speed limit detection is pretty annoying in here, or I don't know if it's the speed limit detection actually, but something in here is kind of annoying because as I'm driving along on the motorway, it keeps changing to 50 when there's no sign suggesting that it is 50. So although it is pretty good at sensing the speed limit, so if there's a sort of a digital kind of speed limit change, then it will sense that, okay, that's fine. But maybe it's the sat-nav is old or something, but yeah. I'm driving along the M1 and it keeps going from 70 to 50 for no reason at all. And then I slow down panicking and then realise actually the speed hasn't changed. I hate to go on about it, but the problem with these speed limit things is that if you are doing adaptive cruise control, or assisted driving as it calls it, and it's set to the speed limit, then if it thinks it's 50, then it's going to reduce your speed down to 50 on a motorway when everyone else is still doing 70. So that's the issue with it. So if you do have assisted driving on, then perhaps make the speed a little bit, either a little bit less or a little bit more, but don't set it just to the speed that it thinks it is, because it's probably wrong. And this is why driver assistance stuff in cars, in modern cars, is kind of crap. While we're on the subject of safety features, this does have, like every new car, it does bug you if you go over the speed limit. However, this is far better than many other EVs that I've tried. Well, okay, Kia and Hyundai, I'm thinking mainly of them. It's far better than them, because although it does bug you if you go a little bit over the speed limit, and just to say, I'm not condoning speeding, I'm just saying if you go slightly over the speed limit by 1 mile an hour or something, then I don't want to be bugged too much. And it will beep at you, but it's a fairly subtle beep, and then it just gives up after a while. So that's good. I say it gives up after a while because, not because I've been speeding just to test it, but because it's not very good at sensing the speed limit sometimes. So there's a road near me, for instance, which is 60 and it was convinced it was 40. And obviously when it thinks that the speed limit is wrong, you don't want it beeping at you all the time, telling you that you're going too fast. So thankfully it does just give up after a while.
I haven't actually looked properly in this menu to see how to disable it completely if I wanted to, but I'm sure there'll be a way. But it is quite a confusing infotainment system. It's not the best layout, not even the best design that I've seen. I mean, it's just a little bit, I don't want to say tacky, but it just doesn't seem great. Even though it's a quiet cabin, it still can't reduce the noise of the awful M25. With the do-do-do-do-do road here is just absolutely dreadful. Ah, a nice bit of smooth. Ah, and then back to that. Awful bit of road. Just to be fair to the iX, sorry about this awful road, the speed limit has changed to 60. It's one of these variable speed limits you get on the motorway, and it does know it's 60, and it's automatically reduced my maximum speed on the cruise control to 60. So that's worked pretty well. Listen to this road, it's dreadful. Really, it's like train tracked. One of my favourite things about this car is the speaker system, which is a Harman Kardon one, and it's so good. I wouldn't say it has the clarity of some other sound systems I've used recently, and I'm thinking the Tesla Model 3 is probably the best sound system I've used in recent times, but this is certainly bassier and it's just amazing. This is a weird thing to mention, I know, but I love the indicators in this car. They're proper clicky indicators that actually stay down when you press them, and they're not like the BMW i3, which it just drives me mad, because I always find I indicate one way and then I overcompensate when I try to cancel it, and I end up indicating left and right. It looks like I've got my hazards on sometimes. So I hate indicators like that. These are proper normal ones. I mean, they don't feel very refined or anything for a car like this, but they just feel right. So there we go. There's 1 minute just talking about indicators in this review. Sorry. That kind of thing is important to me though, you know. So I don't see the point, but you do have these gestures that you can do. So you can do that to turn up the volume, I think it is. Yeah. There we go. But it's so faffy. Why not just use the nice volume control here, or the volume control on the steering wheel? I don't know. And you can do the same with changing the track. So that, I think, is that right? That. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so a thumb. So again. But it's just stupid. Why not just use the controls on the steering wheel? It's just pointless, isn't it? You can use the touch screen, but you can also use the iDrive control, which feels lovely, I've got to say. Now, I never use this. I just use the touch controls. But it's a lovely feeling, clicky wheel we've got down here. And the volume control is lovely as well. So there's this tactile, these tactile buttons are good. There's also some other buttons on here. Nav, tel, media, my modes, and you can change tracks down here and things like that. But those are all sort of weird, pushy, they're not touch buttons, but they are kind of pushy, flat buttons that aren't really raised. So they're a bit weird. I don't see the point of those. But anyway, top marks for the clicky feeling stuff. It's all good. One thing I'm not convinced about is the steering wheel. It's incredibly chunky. It feels right, to be honest, for the car this size, but still it feels incredibly chunky, and it's sort of a weird shape, which I'm not convinced about really. But, you know, I do like the controls on here. The controls are really simple. So I've been driving for a good couple of hours now, and it's very comfortable. Ordinarily I would probably suffer from backache at this point, but no, absolutely fine. It's just, it's a pleasure to drive on the motorway. Okay, almost here, and the efficiency, well, far better than I thought it was going to be, but, you know, that's because the motorways have been pretty congested. 44% battery, looks like I'm going to get here with. I was expecting 20% or something. I'm going to meet Jonathan with his brand new Tesla Model Y, and we're going to compare the two cars. I'll do that in another video. I'll put it on the screen so you can click the link if you want to see that. Yeah, it's a monster, an absolute monster. We've got here with 44% and the efficiency is 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour. Checking tag, authenticated, preparing to charge. Oh, they're neck and neck at the moment, at 87 kilowatts. So I finished charging at Smart Charge. I moved the car. Stupid big car. Did a little bit of filming with my friend Jonathan and went in and got a sandwich. So I'm ready to go home. 2 hours 50 in Apple Maps. And what have we got? 95% battery and 249 miles.
Use the left lane to bear left.
So fast when you put the foot down. God. You know, it's such a big, chunky car. You wouldn't expect it to go so fast, but it does.
In half a mile.
So, big, heavy car. It's fast. Lots of torque. So, be prepared to shred your tyres. I think you'll probably go through your tyres quite quickly on this car. There's wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. The implementation of Apple CarPlay is good in that if you go to add stop in Apple Maps, it actually says charging stations. So it'll actually tell you charging stations while you're driving along, which is a really good way of navigating, by the way. If you want to go on a long journey using Apple Maps and you don't want to actually plan any of the charging stops, you just want to stop when you feel like it, then you can just go to add stop, go to charging stations, and it tells you how many are available, how many minutes you'll add onto your time, and all that sort of stuff. It's very good. So I love that that's on there, and I've said this before, but weirdly that's not on the Kia EV3. There's no excuse for it. It should be on all cars that support CarPlay, but hey, lovely to see it here anyway. I was thinking about the bass, because I was talking about how good the bass is, but actually it was a bit too much just then. And I realised it's because whoever used the car before me really loved the bass and had turned it up pretty much maximum. So I've reduced that down now and it's a little bit more manageable. What has surprised me is there's not quite as much body roll as I would have expected for a big SUV like this. I've been driving quite spirited around the curves of the roads here and it doesn't feel too bad. It sort of shifts, it almost feels like it shifts horizontally. Instead of going like that at an angle, it kind of shifts horizontally over. So I feel like these need to be a bit more. I think the padding on the side of the seats I feel like needs to hold me in a little bit more. I just feel like I'm going left and right a bit like that instead of that way. Difficult to describe, but anyway, it feels really well engineered and it hides its mass quite well, I think. The reversing camera is really good. So we're back with 39% battery and 111 miles, 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour, and just about 300 miles. So that's not bad, actually. In fact, that's really good considering the size of the car, but it's not like I've been driving very fast on the motorway. The motorways have been pretty awful, and it has been good weather, although the air conditioning's been going really the whole time. Actually quite impressed. If you've watched this channel before, you'll know that my wife and daughter have quite strong opinions on things. We did our family journey in this recently, and well, they loved it. They loved it because it's just so comfortable and it's so nice to drive. So if I were to tell them that I was going to buy this, they would be very happy. It's a big SUV and I'm not really a big fan of big cars anyway. We don't really need the extra space inside the car. We've got a Kia e-Niro that we use all the time and we love. We always go on about that. That's fine for us. What this gives you is luxury. The ride quality in this is astounding. The seats are so comfortable. And yes, the sound system is amazing. It rides brilliantly. I mean, I don't know how BMW's engineers have done it, but for a large SUV like this, it's just effortless. It's an amazing car. So if you wanted to get a big, comfortable SUV new, and maybe you're doing it on salary sacrifice or you're leasing it through a business, then yes, something like this does kind of make sense, although that is still an awful lot of money. I'm not sure I can justify spending over 70,000 on a new car. However, if you did look through the used market, £30,000 for one of these is pretty good. Personally,
I would rather get an Ioniq 5, no surprise to anyone that's watched the channel before. The Ioniq 5 is a bit smaller, you've still got loads of internal space. It charges about 10 minutes faster. I think it looks cooler. So the Ioniq 5 would be my pick, or if I really wanted loads more room inside, then the Kia EV9 or Hyundai Ioniq 9 would probably suit me more. But I know there are people that would rather get something with a BMW badge, and fair enough. To be honest, after having driven this and seeing just how good BMW have made the drive, I wouldn't blame you. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please press the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of other videos, and I'll be back very soon. Bye for now. So I've dropped the iX off, and then back home in the i3. The wonderful little i3, the sensibly sized i3. Sensibly sized, but not quite as comfortable as the iX.